Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Before we start, if somebody wants to buy tickets from our ticket master, Ernst. Raffle 50-50. Thank you. Good morning. I call this meeting of Lake Mary Toastmaster Club 6440 to order. Before we proceed, please silence your cell phone. I would like to ask everyone to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Our club mission is to provide a supportive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Please let me welcome this morning our Toastmaster, Lori Richards.
Good morning, Lake Mary Toastmasters and guests. I'm happy to be your designated driver for today. There's a reason why today's meeting theme is beer. I'm
Here.
and it's not because I'm a late night TV watching beer guzzler. It's because I'm scheduled to go to Milwaukee at the end of the month. And the only thing I know about Milwaukee is that they have a baseball team called the Brewers, which led me to do a little bit of research, and I discovered they have a lot of breweries up there, hence the name Brewers. And now, the theme, beer. Beer is the most widely consumed alcoholic beverage in the world, with something in the region of 34 billion gallons consumed annually worldwide. As well as being the world's most popular drink, it's also the most varied, with many hundreds of different styles and recipes ranging from thick, dark stouts to crisp, delicate lagers. When I think of beer, I think of commercials. In 2012, Brewers spent more than $1 billion in TV ads. Tell me if you recognize this beer slogan, the king of beers. Exactly. So it was well spent. As your designated driver, I'd like to introduce you to some very important people who will help us get to our next destination safely. She loves to head for the mountains. Welcome our grammarian, Julia Kaufman.
And welcome guests. My role as grammarian is to provide the word of the day. And the word of the day is ferment. Now, I'm a little bit not quite sure at this point, but I looked up this definition, and it means to agitate. So when it's used for creating beer, it agitates the bacteria and the what is it called? The yeast. Thank you. In the beer. But for art purposes, you can use it as a noun or a verb, and it means to agitate. And in the verb, it causes to cause excitement or agitation. So for example, sometimes our evaluations can offer a fermented view of a speech in order to help and support that speaker become a better speaker. I'll also listen for proper use and improper use of the language and give a report at the end of the day. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Our counter is on his way, but I wondered if someone would be able to fill in for him until he gets here.
Sure.
Julia?
I would be happy to.
Yay.
Yes, as the counter, doing double duty, the role is to catch all of those infractions, when the double clutches, the ahs, the ums, those filler words. Each infraction's a 5-cent penalty. I gave you an example of an just for your purpose of how it's used. Hi Sam. At the end of the day, Sam's going to give you a report on how many ums, ahs, and double clutches we did, and we're going to build our pot to a lot of money so we can go on a party later. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
And this is our counter. He's got the perfect name for today's meeting. Sam Adams Bailey.
All righty.
As the
Oh.
oh,
We already
We already
took
did
care
that.
of it.
Thank you.
As I anyways. Proceed.
All right, keeping us on time for today as we go for the gusto. Welcome our timer, Tara.
All right, Tara.
All right, so my function is to time the speakers, evaluators, and table topic participants to ensure they meet the timing requirements. I will demonstrate the timing with these lights. I have examples of how much time each one it takes, and I'm downloading a stopwatch right now to help me. So hopefully I'll do okay. Thank you for allowing me to be a timer.
Okay, a couple beer facts for you. The first beers were brewed more than 5,000 years ago by the Sumerian people who lived in what is now modern-day Iraq. The ancient Egyptians developed the art of brewing on a large scale to supply the pharaoh's armies with their daily ration. That sounds like something that happens at my house, daily ration. Giving speech number 6 from the Competent Communication Manual, a man who needs no introduction. Please welcome Lake Mary Toastmaster's most interesting man in the world.
I guess I'll ferment on that thought. I was like, somebody here? This morning I want to talk to you about something that's been held very near and dear to my heart. You look around on Facebook, you read different news articles, certain things pop up that kind of make you cringe a little bit. One thing I want to talk about today is something that has changed history, it can save life, and it can give life. Mike, what are you talking about? The thing I want to discuss with you guys is a firearm. Now, many people see this and they get nervous. They're not sure. What do I do with this? You're European, forgive me.
Yes.
I apologize. But one thing I want to discuss is safety. And I broke it down into S.A.F.E. So, what does S.A.F.E. stand for? These are actually 4 universal firearms safety rules that I've applied today. Safe. That was number 1. Always keep every firearm, treat every firearm as if it were loaded. Why would I do that? So, how can I remember that? Safe, S. Seriously, treat every firearm as if it were loaded. A lot of people don't do that. So you'll read on the news of the accidents that happen. Because many people look around and, this is a toy. I can have fun with this. Hey, Christmas party, a couple of eggnogs. Hey, Uncle Bob, let me see your new toy. And then you get this. And then you read about in the news what happens. So, treat every firearm you ever pick up as if it were loaded. You can teach your kids this, believe it or not. You can teach them anytime they play with their toy guns, don't point it at people. You guys heard that one when you were growing up, right? Very true, very true. Start it early, start it now. Because the end result is absolutely atrocious. I think you all can agree on that. Second is A. A. What can I use to apply for A? Always keep the gun pointed in the safe direction. What's the safe direction, Mike? The safe direction is anywhere somebody else is not at. Don't you think? But people don't think to that second, third order of that. How far could it go? If it was a ricochet, where would it go? Notice I'm not touching the gun. It's pointed in that direction. But it's an inanimate object. Is it going to go anywhere? Is it going to jump off the table and animate itself? No, it needs you. Which goes to my F. Finger. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot that gun. Many people don't think about that. Well, the funny thing is the way the gun is designed, your finger is made to rest on the trigger. So, why do I say keep your finger off the trigger? Let's look at your car. Your car. If I don't put the keys in the ignition, is the car going to start itself? No. But people don't think about that. They really don't. And so you'll start seeing this. Bang. Story in Tallahassee. Lady in her, it's actually her birthday party. Her brother pulled out a gun and was spinning it around with his finger. Granted, there's a few drinks involved, which hence leads into our discussion of the day. But the story, as it read, is spinning on his finger, and then it dropped, and when it fell on the ground, it went off. Shot his sister in the neck. Consequently, she lost her life. But look at the story. It dropped and went off, or was it spinning on his finger, activating the one piece of the one mechanism that ignites the gun? Think about that when you read your stories. What's the last other one? E. Everyone. Everyone needs to know what they're shooting at and what's beyond their target. Because a lot of people don't think about that. You have a lot of friends that go out in the woods and it's like, oh, we're going to shoot pop cans, beer cans. Fermenting out in the woods. And they're fermenting out in the woods, yes. I engraved that. Where does that bullet go if it goes pew and ricochets? Did you realize there was a campsite 500 meters off in the woods? Case in point, 4th of July, New Year's Day, whatever the event is. Saw on the news, hey, don't shoot your guns in the air. Oh boy. I couldn't believe I was actually seeing that on the news. Because a friend of mine who's an investigator for OPD, a couple years back, on the 4th of July, investigated a shooting. An 8-year-old kid took him around through the neck, through both lungs, heart, dropped him dead. Came on scene, was like, what happened here? So he did his little CSI work, vectored into where the bullet came from, and drew a 1.5 mile line, as the crow flies, and said, let's look over there. Started looking over there and actually found the person who, in a celebratory, happy 4th of July, shot over there. So, in closing, I want you guys to think about, when you handle firearms, you can do it safely. You can have fun. But I need you guys to think about what you're doing. Take your time and enjoy it. Madam Toastmaster.
Timer, may we have 1 minute on the clock?
Yes.
Evaluation. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. That's something that I will be fermenting about all day. That was a poor use of the word, sorry. Anyone want to guess what the best-selling beer in the world is?
Bag
Miller Lite.
Miller Lite.
Miller Lite.
Heineken. Bud Light.
No, that's one of my
No,
favorites.
no.
though.
Foster.
No,
Well,
Yes.
American.
exactly.
What?
Why are you thinking American is what Steven said. The number one best-selling beer in the world is Snow, which is out of China. And if you think about it, China has the fastest growing population.
Orange pop.
Yes. Number 2 is also a Chinese beer, Tsingtao. And our own Bud Light is number 3, and followed by Budweiser. And the number 10 is Coors, another American beer. So China has outranked us selling the top selling beer. Expanding on today's theme, Martin is glad to introduce several beverages to your palate that you may wish to consider when hosting your next important occasion. Please welcome Martin Bell.
Allow just a couple of moments while I set up my props, please. Happy New Year, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. Good morning and welcome. Good morning. So the holidays have just finished. Does anybody over the last month or so go to any cocktail parties or functions or house parties? Or have folks over at your house, perhaps some friends you hadn't seen in a while. Perhaps it was a little difficult in striking up conversations with some friends or with some strangers, right? Typically, what's the most common question we're asked when we meet somebody for the first time these days?
What do you like to drink?
I wish it was. I stole my idea. But normally it's, so what do you do?
Where do you work? Or
What do you do? Where do you work? What do you do? Right? And isn't that boring?
Yeah.
It's a little boring. So I figure, well, here's an idea that perhaps we can use at our next cocktail function or the next time we invite folks over to our house. And it's as easy as bringing over one or two of your favorite beverages and relating that to our lives and personal experiences. For example, here we have Kilmes. All right, and I'll go ahead and pass this around.
Oh, that's not a good idea.
And in addition, and Mike, we can save these for drinking until after the speech. Here we have a Baltica. So why do I bring up a Kilmes and a Baltica? Kilmes is brewed in Argentina, and that's where I was born. That's where I'm from. Don't most of us enjoy talking about where our families are from, perhaps where we grew up? Baltica is from Russia/Ukraine, and that's where my wife's from. And I enjoy drinking Balticas every time I go to Kiev, relax in the park on a very lazy afternoon, just watching people play chess. And whereas with Kilmes in Argentina, well, you know, anytime you go to a barbecue or spend time with friends and family in Argentina, they're going to be having Kilmes. So we can relate beverages to our families, where we grew up, and what and the forth. Next I have a Schöfferhofer. This is a very tasty grapefruit beer from Germany. So why do I bring up Schöfferhofer? Ernst?
No.
German that ran out of the room when the mic speaks. Well, Schöfferhofer is one of many tasty German beers. And I love going to have German beers at the Willow Tree Cafe in Sanford, right down the street. In fact, I was just there on Friday evening, where I saw many, many individuals partaking in glass boots of beer. And there's two rules at the Willow Tree Cafe. If you do buy a boot of beer, you can't set it down until it's all done. So what you'll see is parties of 6 or 8 or 12 or more actually racing to drink their beers. And it makes for a very festive occasion. And that's why the Willow Tree Cafe is one of my favorite places to go have a meal. You just can't get more festive than that. So we can relate a beverage to our favorite places to eat and drink. Next, I'll bring up a very light ale from Canada, Molson Canadian. We'll start over on this side. So why do I bring up Molson Canadian? Well, sometimes it's good to bring up some of the crazy things you did during your youth, right? Or maybe during your college days, right? Well, growing up in Michigan, it was very easy for us in Michigan to hop over the border into Canada and go to places like bars, including Don Cherry's. If there's any hockey fans in the room today, Don Cherry is one of the most vocal and vibrant and colorful commentators and personalities that you will ever see in the sports world. And by the way, he owns 4 bars in Canada. And so, with a drinking age being 19, what are you going to do as a 19 or 20-year-old American? You're not going to wait for your 21st birthday. You're cutting across that border to drink some Molson Canadian. Next we have a Rogue Dead Guy IPA. Rogue is brewed in Newport, Oregon. And many of us enjoy talking about where we've recently traveled to. I was cutting down the Pacific Coast Highway with my mom late last year, and we decided to stop for the night in Newport, Oregon. I actually had that beer in the microbrewery, and we listened to a band on a Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock, and that band included 6 individuals who were each at least over 70 years old. And they jammed, and they rocked it. And the average age of the people dancing to this band was at least 65. Never had seen people have so much fun in my life. And when my mom and I left the bar, we were surrounded in the smoke of pot. Couldn't believe it. And my mom said, I wonder what that herb is. so we can relate some of our favorite beverages to places that we've recently seen. Next, we have La Fin du Monde. La Fin du Monde, brewed in Quebec. Very tasty, also 9% for those of us that like a heavy beer. Well, sometimes we go to parties where our guests are offering wine and cheeses. And they're assorting several cheeses with different wines. Well, I like La Fin du Monde because it pairs well with wine and cheese. So if you're looking for a beer that pairs well with wine and cheese, that's your beer right there. Finally, we've got a double wide IPA from Boulevard. This is a microbrewery out of Kansas City. Why do I bring this particular beverage up? Well, sometimes you go out and you meet a very interesting individual, such as I, the first time I had that beer last week. I'm at a bar, and the bartender, and I hadn't seen it before, I asked the bartender, how does that taste? He's like, well, let me give you a little bit of taste, but watch out, these were up on 8% alcohol. I said, all right, had my first beer, that tasted pretty good, went down very well. I said, bartender, I'll ask for a second, and that'll be it. He said, don't worry, my friend, tonight I am your enabler. One of the best things I've ever heard a bartender say, and that's my story with a double wide IPA from Boulevard. Now that my time is up, and just to finish off, I've got an I4 from Orlando Brewing. All right? I4, local. I don't have a story for this beer, but I'm sure many of us will as construction starts on I4 in the next month. Man, the Toastmaster.
Sam did Dutch's beers.
1 minute on the clock, please, timer. Yeah, we're gonna have to ID you.
Oh, and by the way, I do have a
Breathalyzer?
opener. Please feel free to select the beverage to take home with you.
I thought it was breathalyzer. The purpose of the Leadership Excellence Series is for members to learn about the skills they will need to be successful leaders inside and outside of Toastmasters. Giving effective feedback is important for a Toastmasters club. Feedback is information concerning the team's behavior, attitude, relationships, and progress toward achieving objectives. Leaders that skillfully provide feedback help the team achieve its goals, build the team's confidence and pride, and help them to succeed. Alexandra feels fortunate to have had great mentor figures in her 20-year career in telecom. She has a proven track record of success as a sales manager, channel manager, and sole contributor. She believes part of her success was due to leaders providing her with meaningful feedback, which motivated her to perform even better in her field. Help me welcome Alexandra Balda.
Thank you. Fellow Toastmasters, I have been lucky and blessed, like Lori mentioned on my introduction, to have great managers throughout my career. I consider them mentors and coaches because they provided me with effective feedback when the time was done, which allowed me to continue striving for the goals that were set up back in those days. Today, we are going to learn how to give effective feedback without being fermented. Today, we are going to have a clear understanding that is going to be 4 steps that we need to follow to give an effective feedback to a member, to a coworker, to somebody that you're supervising at work. The first step is set clear objectives. What does that mean? Clear objectives are the foundation. Imagine the foundation of the feedback you are going to provide. That foundation is going to have clear goals where the measurements are going to be established. You are going to tell the person, this is where you are going to strive for, And from there is where you are going to provide the feedback based on the measurements attained by the person. The second step is, once you set up the clear objective, you are going to observe the performance. You are going to observe not only the negative portion, as well the positive facts of the performance. Provide immediate feedback. That will be step number 3. I heard from one of my managers in the past, bad news are not like wine. They are not get better with time. If you have something to say, you already set up the objective, you observing the performance, and you see something that needs correction, say it right away. It will make more impact on the feedback, and it won't lose the effect. The last step is recognize positive performance. In a group, not only focus to just reprimand the bad performance of the people that didn't attain the goals, also recognize the people who did attain the goals and who are doing the steps necessary to attain that goal. How we are going to accomplish, how we are going to give effective feedback. I'm going to pass around at the part of this part of the meeting. What I would like to see is everybody participating. You have one in the back, Ross. Can you please pass one? You got one?
That's okay.
Do we have an extra one? Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Who needs one?
I got one.
You got one? You all got one?
Sorry.
That's okay. On this section, what I would like to see and the objectives is we're going to work all together. I want to see full participation. These are on-hand exercise, and we're going to learn in 5 simple steps how to provide an effective feedback. Everybody's participation. I need volunteers. The first step on how to give an effective feedback is make your feedback specific to the behavior. I need someone volunteering to rate, and we're going to see here the correct way to do a feedback and a poor way to do the feedback with this point specifically. Who wants to read the first one? Ernst.
Henry, I'm concerned about your punctuality. You have been 15 minutes late for the last 3 mornings. Please explain why.
We're being specific of Henry being late by 15 minutes for the last 3 mornings. Ernst, could you tell me now the example of a bad way of expressing a feedback?
Henry, you have a bad attitude towards your job.
So you see the difference. The first one, we addressing exactly what the behavior is in a positive way. Number 2, speak for yourself. I need another volunteer. Gus.
Yes. Specific. Henry, I'm concerned about your punctuality.
I. Speak for yourself. What would be a bad way to do it? A poor way.
Henry, people are saying you are really always late.
So you see the difference. Speak for yourself. Henry, I am concerned. I. The poor way, people are saying. So that would be point number 2. Point number 3, emphasize how actions or behavior are affecting the team. Martin.
Henry, when you don't get your report to me on time, I can't get the report complete for my boss's deadline. This slows up decisions about resources needed for next month.
We are emphasizing because of the behavior, these are the consequences. What would be a poor way, Martin, of expressing the behavior.
Henry, can't you ever get your damn reports to me on time? Oh, sorry.
I'm sure,
There's a typo on that one.
I'm sure you can see the difference. So far we cover a specific behavior, be truly specific of the behavior that needs to be corrected. Number 2, speak for yourself, not for others. And number 3, what the behavior is causing, what is the effect that is causing to the member or to the company or to the team. Number 4, use I statements as opposed to you statements to reduce defensiveness when asking for change of behavior. What happened, think for a second, when somebody say, you? How do you feel? What happened? The defensive wall is going up. So never use you when you want to address an issue with somebody else at work or in your personal life. The best way is to start your statement with I. Who wants to read that one? Julia?
Sure. Chris, when you play your radio in the work area, I lose my concentration. Would you mind turning it off during regular work hours? And a vague core statement would be, Chris, you are so inconsiderate of other people when you leave your radio on.
So you see the difference. The first one, you are bringing to the attention of the person what seems to be the bad behavior, and then I, why? Because I, this, and that. On the second one, you are attacking the person by using you. Last but not least, once you are following these steps to do or give an effective feedback, the last one is end on a positive note. Everybody knows, I'm sure, the sandwich method that kind of cover that as well. Positive, improvement, positive. That will be ending on a positive note. Mike.
Yes. Joe, I'm sure your progress will be much faster now that you are clear on how to use this new report. For example, be Joe, isn't it time? Excuse me, isn't it about time you improved your follow-up skills with this report?
That one is very self-explanatory. Ending on a positive note, we leave the person with the feeling and the assurance from you, the manager, or the coworker, this is something that is being told for my own good, for my own improvement. Let's read the whole paragraph and put everything together, how will sound the whole feedback done in the correct way, Tara.
Henry, I'm concerned about your punctuality. You have been 15 minutes late for the last 3 mornings. Please explain why. When you don't get your report to me on time, I can't complete the report for my boss's deadline. This slows up decisions about resources needed for next month. Henry, I am confident on your positive intentions to be on time moving forward.
Thank you, Tara. Providing meaningful feedback will reinforce outstanding performance. Toastmasters, what I'm looking for after this presentation is you take your giving effective feedback tools with you, use it on this club, use it at work, use it on your personal life. Remember, a good feedback, an effective feedback could build a person. An ineffective or negative feedback could break a person. Madam Toastmaster.
One minute, please. you recognize the slogans for these beers, or match the slogan with the proper beer. Less filling, tastes great. Less filling, tastes great. Tastes great, less filling.
The Bud one.
Miller Lite.
Miller
Yes,
Lite.
speak up, speak
Let's fill it.
up. Australian for beer.
Foster.
Yep, by the way, my friends who are Australian said it's crap and they don't drink
Just so you know.
This is part of the $1 million TV advertising network. You never forget your first girl.
Oh, yes,
That's true.
St. Pauli girl. How about
Obviously
this
not a
one?
very good campaign.
The frosty mug
Not really.
sensation. Yay, A&W root beer. It's a beer. It is a beer. It is a beer. Red Stripe. That's a Jamaican beer, I believe.
Yes.
Their slogan is "Hooray beer." This man stepped up at the last minute to be Toastmaster, so I say, "Hooray, Ernst!" Our table topics master for today is Ernst Urbanchek.
Thank you, Madam Toastmasters. I'm kind of insulted. I thought the Germans were the ones who invented the beer. Now he says the Egyptians and the Iraqis. My goodness.
Sumerians.
God, here. Good morning, Madam Toastmaster, fellow members, and honored guests. Who has no assignment today? Because that's who needs to speak.
The guest.
The guest, there's nobody here.
Start with the text.
Definitely not.
Start with the guest.
No, don't start with the guest.
Okay, talking about the fermented stuff, which is beer. I know just too much about it, and I know you can get pretty drunk, and it's an alcoholic beverage. I can remember some hair-raising experiences here. Clearly, drinking beer too much cannot only get you in trouble with your spouse, your friends, and certainly the cops do not like it when you drive drunk. However, alcohol has some great health benefits. What health benefits do you think alcohol can give you? Stephen Morgan.
Mr. Table Topics Master, I'm not one to drink alcohol. Not because I don't have not because I have any problem with it, but basically because I don't like what it does for me. When I do my stupid stuff, I'm sober. I get my stimulation more from the intellectual side, which is why I enjoy getting into the games or discussions, many of those things, but when I have a bit of the alcohol, it's kind of like, now I'm just too distracted. Now I'm not focusing on too much, but that's where I like enjoying what I do. So the health benefits, whatever they may be, I end up passing off because I enjoy what I'm doing otherwise. Therefore, I find it much interesting to see what would happen if you have a few of these and then everyone starts doing the table topics. That would be something to try today.
That would be very interesting. Many religions forbid the consumption of alcohol. I wonder why. Julia Kaufman.
Question. I was a little distracted.
Many religions forbid the consumption of alcohol. I wonder why.
Ah, I see. Well, I'm not part of those religions. I would guess that you lose a little control when you partake in a little bit too much alcohol and they want your wits around you. So I suspect that they frown on being too crazy and wild and letting yourself totally go. And that's the reason that they don't like alcohol. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's why I'm not part of a religion which allows alcohol. The word firewater was used and still is today by the native Indians. I wonder why they use the word firewater. Who wants to try that? Mr. Guest, I don't know what your name is.
One time late at night, probably out on the prairie, the somebody had lit a fire, forgot to put it out, and one spark went off onto the jug of the water that they thought was just water, and boom.
Actually, they judged the quality of whiskey, whether it was burning or not, by the quality. So the one which burned was the good fire one, the other one was just water. I mean, do you have more?
Yeah, you have lots.
Okay, do you ever remember when you had too much to drink and what was the outcome?
Kerri?
It's gotta be somebody, Kerri, it might as well be you.
I do. There's been several occasions, but one that particularly comes to mind would have been homecoming when I was in college, and we pretty much started drinking during the parade in the morning, and then drank at the party before the football game, at the football game, after the football game at the party, and really don't remember how I got home. I just remember being back in my room at my sorority house, and I did find out that my friends took me home when I got a little drunk, and apparently I thought at the party I only did like one shot, and apparently I did 6. And so that's pretty much it.
Not written down, but I'm going to watch it out. I just came back from Germany, and one of the obvious things is when you walk around the streets, people walk around with open bottle of beer. Not just like in the late afternoon. I'm talking about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning. I think they go to church. I don't know which church they're going to. And of course, everybody smokes. And I understand the law is that you can't smoke in public, but you still can drink in public.
Right.
I wonder, Mike, would you subscribe to this kind of behavior here in the United States? And why not?
So, would I subscribe? Absolutely. Why not? Because we could start eliminating, well, basically helping Darwin's law kind of work itself out. So, yes, I think it would be a good idea.
Now on to the educational portion of our meeting. I would like to turn the meeting over to our general evaluator. Stephany, it doesn't get any better than this. Burn.
Doesn't get any better than this. Education portion for the benefit of our guests and newer members. This is the time we evaluate our meeting, we evaluate our speeches, we find out what we're doing right, what we can do better, and how to improve our club, and have loads of fun while we're doing it. I sent out my notes, as usual. Everybody got it? Kind of what we're looking for in the meeting, how to perform our roles, and what we're going to say in our meeting. I'm going to ask the evaluators to come up first to evaluate the speeches that they heard. Now, the evaluation that Alexandra, she did most of my job for me. She told us what an evaluation should be. That it should add power to what you're doing well and to help you to improve on the things that you need to improve on. Something to grow on, something to learn from. It's supposed to uplift and not crush, right? We're clear evaluators? So I'm going to ask our first evaluator, Gus Davies, to come up and evaluate Mike Hughes' safe speech.
Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters and guests, and Mike. I was looking forward to this speech when I saw it in Easy Speak that you'd be talking about S.A.F.E. I had other ideas. But you clearly dispelled my ideas. The objective of this speech was the use of his voice and also to communicate what all the things he's learned from 1 to 5. He was able to bring those together. You started off very well. You walked in, you had your object lesson. And earlier, I wanted to find out what is in there, and he did not tell me. And I was anxiously sitting there. So when you walked up, there was a good pause. in use of your vocal variety, there's a place where you will pause and there'll be an anticipation and you'll say something. You did that not only with the object lesson, but the beginning of the very talk you had. And that gave us time to ferment what you were going to be talking about. And it really got us intoxicated. I'll leave that, because you're talking about the beer. Mike, also, what you did very well on the speech that really stood out was the S.A.F.E. You explained that clearly to us. And you gave examples of each one of those, very practical. You talked about the incident in Jacksonville and the other ones in Orlando, so that helped to bring it together. Your rate was satisfactory. The rate was satisfactory. I was looking forward to an area of improvement. You know, when you talk about a gun, you want to talk about pow pow! You know, you want to be able to, I didn't see that. But I was anticipating you would say something like that. That's something you could think about. You really handled the situation very well with the German. Another suggestion I can make for the talk is everybody's, knows about those weapons. Sometimes people are afraid of it. You could find a way where you could break down the fear. Whether it was, you talked about the toy gun, whether somebody can touch it or feel it. So when they know, don't put your finger on the trigger, they can really see. That would be something you can work on. What I liked about the speech, you clearly explain what is to be serious, like consider that, always keep your hand, and you give us clearly what we should be able to do, and we can teach this to our children and people who we think that we play with firearms. I like your movement. You have a cadence to your movement. You bounce around a little bit, and that helped to keep our attention. So thank you for the speech. We have a great objective now to be able to pass on to others. Madam General Evaluator.
Okay. Our next evaluator was impressed in the service. I could see poor Kerri, brain fermenting, when asked to evaluate at the last minute. No, she said, but I know she's going to come up and give it her best effort. She's going to evaluate Martin Bell's speech. You like to take this, right?
Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and I did like the subject. It flowed very well with the theme for today of beer. And I liked how you opened with asking the question of what is the first question that you ask somebody? Because obviously it's not what they're drinking unless you are actually a bartender. In which case that probably is what they would ask. And I did like the use of the actual beer and us being able to look at it and see it. There's most of these beers I have not seen. A lot of them I have, a couple of them I definitely have, but the majority from other countries I have not. You did leave off my favorite beer though, the Bat Beer.
I was going to bring that instead of the Molson.
That is what I drink in Michigan all the time. But one of the only things I think you could work on, I don't know that the title actually quite fit everything you were saying, because it was selecting the right beer for your important occasion, but your examples were a little more of how you could use it to introduce yourself or to learn something more about somebody, where they were from, or where you had traveled to. Your third point was definitely made that in the case of the beer that goes well with wine and cheese. It's probably the only thing that the major thing that I think to possibly improve on, just in your title. But I really liked your speech. I feel like you're very confident when you stand up here and speak, and I thought you used your visual aids well, which was the point of this particular speech. And I can't wait to hear you speak again.
And finally, the pièce de résistance, brewmaster, brother Evaluator Meister. Stephen Morgan is going to evaluate Alexandra's students.
Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, guests, particularly Alexandra. You gave us the Giving Effective Feedback project from the Leadership Excellence series. One of those steps towards the Advanced Leader Bronze. Getting there, yes. Indeed, you took advantage of this opportunity to present us with a few different visual aids, in particular the flip chart and the use of the handouts. The flip chart and the handouts used effectively within the speech, but there were a couple problems with each of them. In particular with the flip chart, the problem is it was being set up while your introduction was being read. I didn't hear the introduction, I was distracted. In terms of the handouts, during the point where you're handing it out, you lost time. It wasn't a big deal, we were on time for today, but it interrupted the flow. Suggestions for those: set up before the intro is read, handouts laying out before the meeting starts so that everyone already has them. Just makes that a little bit easier. The audience participation, this was a bit different. I actually have not seen this done in the speech setup before, where you just have the text already written out and asking people just to read what's there. That was interesting, a good way to get the audience involved. I felt like I was back in high school English class. But it did get the point of getting everyone involved in paying attention. The suggestion that I would make in terms of making your points, making them memorable, is rather than just the quotes to read, is to take it a little bit further to the stories or the anecdotes. What's going to make your points memorable, because we're not going to remember the words, but we will remember the stories. If the stories give us something, especially emotionally, to hook onto, then the points become memorable. And in that case, for a story to make sense, you want to have characters, a conflict, and a resolution. That's a lot to fit within the time frame. You have 5 points for those, but perhaps 1 or 2 of them, if you really wanted them to stand out, take it a little bit more to a story. Somebody who had a problem described the conflict they came into, which required the feedback to be done, and how that feedback ended up making things better, or consequently the negative response of how the feedback done poorly made things even worse. In fact, one example of each would have made a lot of the points you wanted to make even stronger. So when it comes to making those points, stories. You can make up the stories. They don't have to be real, but real ones are even better sometimes. Key to what you did, and what you did very well, was your preparation, which you clearly had done. Aside from the fact of putting the information together in the visual aids, you also knew what you were talking about. And you had no problem with your confidence level, and you got that clearly across to all of us. That was clearly what you had done the best, and for certain, what you've done for us is you've given us that great foundation for us to give even better feedback going forward. Madam General Evaluator.
That was thorough. Okay. Evaluators, good job today. Everyone applied the sandwich technique. Everyone was mindful of their roles. And I'm going to evaluate the meeting, starting with the Toastmaster. Lori, what a pleasure this was. What a well thought out, easily relatable subject. Even if we don't drink beer, we know about it, we've heard it, we've seen it, we smelled it, and most of us have tasted it. Okay, religion notwithstanding. It was fun. You gave us little snippets in between. You stuck to the schedule. Even with a longer speech, we were on time, and that's impressive. We're going to have our reports, and I'll say my final summation. I'm going to ask first the timing. And Tara stepped in at the last minute. You arranged that very well. We were missing people, and you plugged holes very, very, very well.
A little bit of a learning curve, so as mistakes are made, I made a few, and I'll point them out. First to you, I timed you early, but you did a great job of moving through that, so I apologize. So we actually started a little early. We were supposed to start our first speech at 7:37 and we started it at 7:36 and it ended on time. So we had 1 minute extra going through the speeches. So each of the speeches, Excellent Mike ended on time, Martin ended on time, and then Alexandra, you ended, you did a 10-minute speech, but I had kind of rushed you through because I was timing you early and then learned it was a 10 to 15-minute speech. So thanks for rolling with that. That sometimes happens when you're doing speaking. Someone comes in the room, someone interrupts, so you did a great job rolling through that. Our table topics, I needed to borrow someone's watch to do the 30 seconds, but everyone, so Stephen got it a little bit advantage there. I think he took a little longer than he should have been allowed because I didn't time you. But everyone else, as I was timing them, everyone ended on time. Same thing with the evaluation, and I'm happy to report we are on time. So it went really well.
Our counter, Sam.
Alrighty, well, you're gonna have to ferment on this one a little bit because I changed lines and to get some money today. Lori, we have one so intro was, excuse me, about 3 awkward pauses, but that was just kind of transitioning. Mike, you had 2 so's, but also within transitioning. Martin, you had 3 uhs, 1 and a tongue click, and that was in that halfway point of the speech. Chris, you're a guest. You don't really count. You had 1 Kerri, you had an 2 ums, 2 you knows, 1 but, a double clutch, and I wasn't sure what to categorize it as, so I categorized it as 3 stutters as you were transitioning. I apologize, I skipped Miss Alexandra. I believe you were more so correcting your words when you were doing it, so I don't know how that would truly be counted, but I counted 9 double clutches with you fixing the words. And then finally, Tara, I apologize.
Yeah, whoop, I'm back.
2 uhs, 4 ums, and 2 so's, and 1 double clutch.
Okay.
That is my report.
Pay up. Pay up. Tara's rejoining us. How long have you been away? A couple of years?
Yes, at least.
Tara's rejoining us. Yay. And now our grammarian, distinguished Toastmaster,
Yes.
Julia Kaufman.
As grammarian, I heard the word of the day used by Mike, Lori, Ernst, Gus, Stephany, and Sam. If I missed you, I probably was engaged in your story and just didn't hear it. Some of the things that I heard for Alexandra. This is just a suggestion, it's not wrong, but it sounded a little bit like you could be a little tighter in the way, when you said, I want to see, just say, I want to see. Just take out, I would like, so I want to see. Mike, I liked your acronym SAFE and how you talked about that. Martin, I love, this is a very tasty beer. A lot of things you said, but I'm just giving you one. And then Stephen, you mentioned, I find it much interesting. I find it interesting to pick up lunch. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. I am getting ready to call up the business chair today, our VP of Education, Stephen Morgan. This was fun. We had good handoffs today. Yes, the 50-50, for those of you who are going to jump in.
Yeah, anybody wants to do 50-50, right now we have $4. The party's $2. Anybody wants to do 50-50?
See if I have a couple bucks.
She's not here. Chip in your little bit, you might get
$2 goes, 50% goes to you, 50% goes to a winner, actually, and 50% goes back to the club. Paying for such crazy things like, thank you.
Help us keep our ears from going any higher.
The door open, hold on a minute.
While that's going on, we also like to ask our guests what they thought of the meeting, any feedback, because we love to hear our feedback. First, we'll begin with Chris. Thanks for jumping up for table topics.
I liked it. My presentation skills, speaking wise, I'm shifty. I do more ums usually than maybe I did today. But so yeah, I get a lot of value out of this.
Thank you. Welcome back. What do you think?
It's been since October I came. Julia had invited me to come by as a guest, and it's been several months, but starting off the new year right, and I am looking forward to becoming a member and coming regularly. So.
Still a guest? Still a guest?
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of? I don't recall any further.
RJ.
Reoccurring guest, I guess. It's been 7-8 months. It's been a while since I've been able to visit. I'm a member, actually visiting from conference 1066. We meet on Mondays. I actually just started my second term as president, and even though clubs are competitive at times, visiting is a great way. We are still one community, and it's really interesting to see how you guys do things and maybe what we can take back. I love the fact you guys changed the room. I think that's great.
Alexandra.
The theme was wonderful. We meet on Mondays nights above Doc's Streetside Grill. Everyone needs in front of me, so this really made me feel at home. So, but thank you for having me.
Tara's still a guest.
Okay.
Do you have anything you want to add?
Thanks for having me back. I'm really looking forward to being part of the club again. I learned so much when I'm here from the speeches as well as about how to improve myself. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to being part of your club.
All right.
Did the schedule sheet make it far? I know I only got it started late.
Can I do a
Pass
drawing?
around?
No, sorry, that's me. I have something.
That's okay.
Okay.
Now, next week I had set for the meeting to be all table topics, but there are still need for a Toastmaster and general evaluator. So far, Jessica set as counter, Hadi is grammarian, and Mike is
Can
timer.
I do Toastmaster?
You'll do Toastmaster.
Do you need any other roles?
General evaluator.
I can do that.
Okay.
Right.
Then I will not be here next week. I'm going to be out doing a training, so you'll be having the fun doing the table topics here, and this is key. The reason that we're doing this now is that because next month we are going to be having our contests. I have it scheduled for February 24th. That is our table topics contest and the international speech contest. So all table topics, get yourself set for the table topics contest. Everyone can participate. International speech, you have to have done at least 6 speeches, so if you haven't gotten that far, let me know if you need to get them squeezed in. You have a question, Stephany?
Are we gonna do table topics, the standard 1 to 2 minutes in preparation
Next
for the
week,
contest?
yes. That's what you
Instead
should do
of-
next week.
Instead of 30 to 60?
Instead of our normal 30 to 60 seconds, which we do to accommodate our shorter meeting times. The contest is 1 to 2 minutes, so that's what you should be aiming for next week. You'll have to speak a bit longer. For the contests, we are going to need somebody to be the contest chair. We're going to need the contest master, the chief judge, the judges, the functionaries. What I specifically want is somebody to be the contest chair, who then organizes the rest of that stuff. And for those, whoever decides to do it, that would count as the credit for the competent leader manual for that particular project lead, I believe it is, which we only get a few opportunities to do each term, each year. So if there's anyone willing to jump into that one, please let me know so we can get this moving.
Gus, you?
Yes.
Gus is saying right.
I get some help?
You'll get a lot of help.
Yes.
All right, understand.
Just need to know who point man will be. If you're willing to do that, that is great.
Gus is the point man, be your backup.
Okay, I need a backup, thank you.
Martin's indicated, whoever wants to take one of the beers, you're welcome
Yeah,
to
take
do
a
so.
beer, one or a couple, feel free. These are for the group, so.
And finally, do we have our 50-50 ready?
Yes,
Who's going to pick?
like where's the guest draw? I know you participate for it, so you didn't pay, right? So you get one.
Come on, Mac, pick my number.
Okay, what's the number?
2300743.
7, Paul.
Oh!
7.
That is totally rigged.
Five goes to Gus. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goes to the club.
Someone ran off with my gavel, so we shall see you here next week.
One quick thing. It's Steven's birthday, everybody.